I am Lieutenant Colonel Jackie Costello. I'm the G18, or the SO1 Human Performance at Headquarters Forces Command in the Personnel Readiness Branch. This symposium will not be a technical forum. It's designed to be experiential, to take you through the steps of looking at the lens of potential for human performance in Forces Command. The symposium theme is Teams, the foundation to our warfighting capability, and it will feature some professional and lived experience speakers. We've got an interactive specialist panel, and we've got our in-service and academic partners presenting some of our future-ready research. I'd now like to introduce Brigadier Glenn Ryan, AM, CSC and BAR, who is the Director General Training and Doctrine at Forces Command, to open our symposium. Thank you, sir.
What a great morning it is, and what a great way to get here for an army that is in the archipelago and will be a part of a littoral to come underneath the Sydney Harbour. So it's great to be here at a Navy base, a joint base for us today. And especially for Army to come together in this way to talk about what is the major thing that drives Army, the performance of our people. Army's performance that drives the capability, the platforms to work as teams to achieve outcomes. But before I go on, I'd like to acknowledge the Camaragal people and recognise their continuing connection to the land and the waterways, for which I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. And I also pay my respects to the First Nations people and Torres Strait Islanders that have served our nation, are serving our nation and will serve our nation away from their lands and waterways. For those who know me, I love sporting events. I love human endeavours. And I think Army's journey on HPO sort of represents two key sort of methodologies. I'm fascinated with Everest. Not necessarily the mountain, but the people that get up Everest. These people go above a certain altitude where technically from the moment they get there, they're dying until they get back down. And this gentleman called Tenzing Norgay, actually, some of you will know the name. It's actually his son that I'm referring to. He was named directly after his father. Wrote a book about his father who went up on the hill with Edmund Hillary and came back down, the guy who we don't remember on that ascent. And he wrote a book about the fact that so few people can actually achieve that feat, go up the top of Mount Everest without oxygen. And it is only that they can get there through their genetics. So human performance really focused on the genetic capability of that person. Yes, of course they train and those types of things, but so few people can get there. Now, most of you from Forces Command will know I love cycling. I'm a big fan on cycling. I can go back and talk about it for years. I can even talk about the drug years if you want to get into that. But I want to talk about sky racing. Sky racing effectively for the last decade, since we got away with the Lance Armstrong, has dominated cycling. They're a well-paid team, but they've dominated it. They, through a guy called Michael Brailsford, came up with a theory of 1%ers. Now I can sit here and talk about 1%ers, but that's the wrong message. The reason that they won so many Tour de France's, Enduros, and in some cases classics, was because they focused their efforts, they aligned their efforts, and organisationally they got behind building a team to go and achieve those outcomes. Because at the end of the day, at the end of stage 1, stage 10, stage 20, whilst one person crossed the line first, they had to have the next 8 ready the next day with that one to get them through the next day. It was a team effort, but it took a team effort of an organisation that sat behind that team. So why do I use those two analogies? If you think about some things that we've done over the last decade, we've focused human performance really on the Everest thing. There's one person, can we get that one person? Where we've gotten to with a strategy, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, is we're now setting up the organisational frameworks. What we must now do is align and plan if we're going to become that long-term decade human performance capability and lift ourselves up to achieve those things. So whilst we could hold on pedestal Tenzing Norgay, Edmund Hillary, What we actually need to do is think about ourselves as one team for Army and generate the Team Sky effect moving forward. So as we think, some of you will be aware of the HPO strategy, which will be released very, very soon. That strategy is going to be our platform released and so that we can start focusing our efforts at those soldiers to participate in habitual, sustainable programs that generate that individual in a team to cap those capability outcomes. The HPO to do that needs to be enabled so that we build the soldier that is resilient, that is self-aware, mentally agile, ethically and morally aware, robust, physically capable, a persuasive communicator, culturally sensitive, trusted, and an integrated team member. Now, I know there are many, many words, but you think about all of the little things that we've done around Army for the last few years. We've now gripped those best practices up, focused in 5 and 10 years' time to set that pathway to achieving that through everything that we do. To generate that outcome, the Army's plan for HPO is developed, and the first step in that is setting the governance frameworks. The reason the governance frameworks are critical in that is to take all that great work that people in this room and people outside this room have done and make sure that we can repeat it time and time and time again. So I come back to my sky analogy. You can send one person up Mount Everest, but we've got to send a team out every day for the next mission and the next mission and the next mission. So we've got to align all of those efforts across Army, and we've got to make sure that we are repeatable in that. The next piece in this is that we're an Army full of generalists. We have some great specialists. We will set up a Human Performance Advisory Group so we can get those specialist linkages and connections, not just internal, the people internal, but all those external people that we can draw on. The AIS is but one of those organisations, but there are all across the country, and we have those connections. Townsville has a connection with JCU, SOCOM has some connection with universities, that we can use that to make sure that when good ideas are coming in, we can evaluate them with those specialists, make sure that they are aligned to the strategy, and then give the resources appropriate to create that opportunity to move forward. The next piece of this is making sure that DSTG is lined in behind that, because for many of you are probably not aware, DSTG is doing research that is at the 15 and 20 year epochs, where we will want to be as our defence force, an integrated force in that window of time. And so if we're not pulling from them and linking up with these specialists that are in these shorter epochs, then we will not get the best alignment and focus of our critical resources to help those people. Aligned to that is our research. Who here has been aware of the research that we've done through many different areas? Phil, keep your hand down. Yeah, a couple. So I've seen a lot, and I know the HPO team have seen a lot more than I have. These are wonderful people who have got great ideas. But I come back to, is it the one idea for the one person to get up Mount Everest? Or is it the Team Sky? That's the way I look at them. Are these ideas going to help us with the Team Sky methodology of 1%ers to get our team to win the Tour de France? And so in that, we are going to make sure that through that hub that we're going to have for that research innovation, that all of the ideas that are available from Army, being mindful what goes on in the other services, we can make sure that we resource those researchers that will help us achieve that soldier state that I spoke about earlier. It's about lots of 1%ers, so we've got to make sure we align our efforts and not pull ourselves in different directions. Lastly, and most importantly, as a part of that plan, we've got to create the network out there that helps our commanders at all levels execute that. So the concept of HPO leaders being out there in armies, formations and training centres, so that when somebody doesn't understand or somebody seeks advice, they can go to this leader and that leader can go, hey, that idea is really good. Let's get it into the research hub. Let's get it into the special advisory group. Let's get it back into the plan so that we can generate those outcomes. Whilst those are just 4 simple ideas that we are going to execute through that plan to achieve that strategy, what it does, most importantly, is it gives Army the opportunity to align, to focus, to then enterprise on scale that capability that we need to create those people that go out every single day to meet their maximum potential within a team framework. So I come back to it, and I've said it several times. I love the stories around Everest. They're amazing human endeavours, but they're not repeatable and sustainable. That's why so many people die on Everest as individuals. They die on Everest as individuals, and you can read all those stories. That's why this Team Sky analogy is so fundamental to us. We can align those 4 basic foundational constructs that allow those 7 to 8 people, depending on which race you want to talk to me about, they can every day get up, start the next mission for the day, finish having achieved their goals, and then start again the next day. And it's not just about physical. For anybody who's aware, 21 days on a bike riding 23,000 kilometres is cognitively, socio-emotionally, and physically exhausting. Hence why the soldier statement, not related to Tour de France, but the soldier statement is focusing on all those capability and those behaviour pieces. So I hope that through today, you think about what you hear through that Team Sky methodology. The governance, the advisory group, the research hub, and the leaders, so we can uplift all of Army, so our people within teams can achieve their potential to build those capability bricks. Two things Army has done recently in the last sort of 5 or 6 years. One was a physical research study. It was done at Kapuka. And what it found was the top 15 to 20% physically capable people were deloading, i.e. they were getting less physically strong, less VO2 max through their training. And the bottom 20% were breaking. Thinking about the performance requirements, changing the parameters, and all of a sudden at the end of the next trial, everybody was achieving a greater outcome. So even the top 10% were still increasing, only by 1% and 2%, but the bottom 20% were not being broken. There were still some people being injured, but they were increasing exponentially as well within their capacity. So that's a physical piece. The second one was through land range safety, the ADF range qualifications course. We decided to do some data behind that, and we found that the top 10% on the course, well, start state versus end state, were going backwards by about 4 or 5% because they were focused, the efforts in the room were being focused on the bottom 10%. The bottom 10% was still coming up. That's not good because we're not helping everybody achieve their capabilities. So when I listen to the stories, and I can give you stories about universities, the university comes and talks to us. That's why we put it into the HPO hub. That's when they look at it and they go, hey, is this really chasing 1%ers and they should be going and speaking to the AIS, the Queensland Academy of Sport, New South Wales Sports Academy, or is this one that this is one that we pile in, we get some DSTG support and we move forward, because this could move the whole of the force up. So it's in the plan as it is framed, that's the process that we follow. Somebody from somewhere in Army has got a great relationship, sees a great idea, but puts it into that. So we validate it, we apply the resource and move forward. So today, think about the Sky example, please. Think about those 4 key areas that we're going to go after in the plan to achieve that soldier that is cognitively, I'm just now upping the framework on what I said earlier, the cognitive, the socio-emotional and the physical to get those outcomes for our Army well into the future. Thank you very much.